measuring instruments, and measuring units. In this lesson, we will talk about measuring instruments and measuring units. First of all, we have three measurements. The first measurement is the mass. The second one is time, and the third one is temperature. Mass is measured. Mass is measured using digital balance. We use a digital balance. We use a digital balance to measure the mass of chemicals. In chemistry, we use chemicals. This image is for digital balance. We used it before in our practical lessons. So we use digital balance to measure the mass of chemicals. So what is the measuring unit of mass in chemistry?
Kilogram.
kilogram,
Kilogram. But we use the measuring unit gram in chemistry, and maybe we use also milligram. Milligram. So the measuring unit of mass in chemistry or in using chemicals, we use gram or milligram. So to measure the mass, we use a digital balance, and the measuring unit is gram or milligram. The second unit that we will talk about, the second unit is the time. For time, to measure the time, we use a stopwatch. We use a stopwatch to measure the speed of the reaction or the time of the reaction. We use a stopwatch. So a stopwatch is used to measure the time of reactions. We are talking here about reactions in chemistry. So we use a stopwatch to identify the time that is consumed during the reaction. Stopwatch is used to measure the time of the reaction, and the measuring unit of time is second. The measuring unit of time is called second.
second,
Okay,
Second.
some reactions take very long time. For example, fermentation reactions, they take very long time, minutes or maybe hours. And some reactions are very fast. As we said before, combustion reaction are very fast. Explosion reaction are very fast. So they take place in seconds. So we use a stopwatch to measure the chemical reaction. Okay. طيب. After that, we will talk about temperature. And to measure the temperature, we use a thermometer.
Meter.
A thermometer. We use thermometer.
To measure the
Thermometer.
temperature.
We use a thermometer to measure the temperature of chemical reactions. As we said before, reactions can be exothermic or endothermic. We can measure the temperature of the reaction using thermometer. And the measuring unit of temperature is Celsius. Celsius. So we measure the temperature in Celsius. The temperature can be, we can use in measuring temperature, we can use also Kelvin. We can use Kelvin to measure temperature, but the common measuring unit is Celsius. Okay? Okay, Shabab? Can you hear me
Okay.
good? Okay. Now let's move to talk about how to measure the volume of a liquid. The volume of a liquid.
A liquid.
To measure the volume, of a liquid, we have here some instruments to measure the volume of a liquid. To measure the volume of a liquid, we can use a graduated cylinder. Graduated cylinder. We can use also pipette. This instrument is called pipette. We can
So to
use
measure
to measure the volume of a liquid. To measure the volume of a liquid,
volume
we
of
can
liquid.
use a graduated cylinder or measuring cylinder. We can use pipette. We can also use burette. We used burette before in titration, the action between acid and alkali. We can use burette. And the last
Pure.
one is burette. This is called burette. You have to keep the name of an instrument. You have to keep the name of the instrument, okay? Right. And the last one is a volumetric flask. This is called a volumetric flask. It is used to prepare solutions. So to measure the volume of a liquid, we can use a burette. We can use a graduated cylinder, pipette, or a volumetric flask. To measure the volume, we use the measuring unit centimeter cubic. So the measuring unit of liquid of the volume of a liquid is centimeter cubic. Now,
Three.
now let's move to how can we measure the volume? How can we measure the volume of a gas? How can we measure the volume of a gas? We can measure the volume of a gas using a gas syringe. A gas syringe. Like
As
this
a
one. A gas syringe, which is used in injection. A gas syringe. We have a reaction here. If we have a reaction here and we want to identify the amount or the volume of gas evolved, we use a gas syringe to collect the gas evolved, and the volume of the gas, the volume of a gas is collected here, and we measure the volume of a gas using a gas syringe. So we
To
use a
collect
gas
we use the gas syringe to collect.
to collect a gas and to measure the volume of the gas. To measure the volume of a gas. The gas syringe is used to measure the volume of a gas. And it is also measured in centimeter cubic. The last part of our lesson for today is about accuracy. Accuracy. At the bottom of page 11. At the bottom of page 11. How to be accurate? How to be accurate in measuring the volume of a gas, liquid, or even solid in a chemical reaction. The first step to be accurate in measuring the volume of gas or liquid. Number one, repeat your measurements in same way each time. We have to repeat the steps. Three or four times to be sure that the measurements are adjusted. So the first step for accuracy is to repeat your measurements in the same way each time. We should repeat the steps for 3 or 4 times. Number two, use the apparatus with small scale division. Apparatus with small scale. We don't use, for example, if we have a burette, or pipette, we don't use a burette with a scale of 10 centimeters. Not the